Hi, welcome to City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, Walt.
And I know you've brought a special guest with you today, Bruce Doig. And Bruce, I want to get your title correct here. You are the Director of Parks, Recreation, and City Services.
Community Services.
Community Services. Okay, I didn't think I could get through that one. Okay, Community Services. And we're here to talk about the city's parks and recreation and what two better people to do that with. And maybe I'll throw the question to both of you for our viewers who are not familiar. What exactly does Beverly have in terms of resources, parks, and recreation department? What's your mission? Kind of give us an overview of that if you could.
Sure. First, Walt, I want to say welcome back. I know you do most of the questioning on these shows, but since we last recorded, you went on a wonderful sojourn to Italy. When we get off camera, I want to ask you some of those economic development questions. You had an assignment to bring back some ideas to help Beverly from what you saw in Italy.
I have recommendations for wines to serve with certain pastas, but
that's about it. Well, anyway, I'm glad you had a great time. I asked Bruce to join us this month because there's a lot going on with our recreation department. It's all exciting, it's all good, and we want to share it with people. Our recreation department serves kids from infancy right on through our senior citizens. There's a robust year-round program of courses and classes and programs. A lot of people, when they think of the recreation department, they think of summer, and we're chock full of activities and programs in the summer. But it really does continue throughout the year, and it benefits all generations in Beverly. I'll let Bruce, share some of the detail on that.
Sure. Well, again, our summer programs we include 4 summer camps that we run at Lynch Park, and we have about 140 kids who take part in that every 2 weeks. We have 4 two-week sessions. We staff 13 parks around the city, and 5 of those parks we serve lunches at, free lunches through the Beverly School Department and Beverly Bootstraps. We're very proud of that program. But we staff 13 parks, and we have over 1,000 kids registered for those 13 parks. Every Thursday we have a special event at Lynch Park, which draws about 400 to 500 kids, including the camp children who are already there, plus the kids we bus from all over the city. And obviously we have our summer concerts that we run at Lynch Park and at Beverly Common on Sunday nights and Thursday nights, as well as our summer movie series, which has been about 12 years now, very successful program on Sunday nights at Lynch Park. And also, our department is very involved in Beverly Homecoming. In most of the 80 events that happen all around the city of Beverly, we're involved in. So, as the mayor said, we also run programs year-round, educational programs,
Sure.
enrichment programs for people. We do a lot of planning in the off months to planning for the summer. But this year, particularly, we have a lot of projects going on. So it's been a very busy off-season.
And I know that these special adult enrichment programs, educational programs, cover a lot of different topics like photography and other. You want to say just a few words about some of the
Sure. We run the
offerings
full range financial programs, especially financial aid for kids going off to college. That's a big crowd every year. We have arts and crafts programs, dance classes, fitness classes. As you said, we do everything from fishing, learning how to fish, to just about everything you can imagine. And we'll try anything. If somebody has an idea for a program that they'd like to see run, we'll try it, see how successful it is, and then keep it going.
Right, yeah.
And just so everybody knows, it was just in the last couple of weeks that people got their latest program book for the winter.
Right.
And people can also go on the city website, go to the recreation department, and see what the offerings are as well.
Right. And you've become kind of an institution. How long have you been with the Parks and Rec, Bruce?
Well, I was on the Parks and Recreation Commission for 8 years prior to becoming the director in Beverly, and I've been the director now for 12 years. So it's been about 20 years total that I've been involved directly with the recreation program, besides working as a park instructor many years ago with Joan Fairbank. So it's been near and dear to my heart for a long time.
Well, I know that BevCam, of course, covers the homecoming events at the band shell every year, and a lot of the acts that perform there have also performed in other venues with BevCam, and I know that these folks have had a good working relationship with you, and they speak very highly of you.
Thank you.
Now, speaking of Lynch Park, the CPC recently awarded some funding for improvements at Lynch Park. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about that and maybe what other projects are happening now in Lynch Park?
Absolutely. The Community Preservation Committee, a volunteer group that makes recommendations on how to spend community preservation money, has made some recommendations to the City Council, which were approved the other night by the Council for some spending. We also have a group called the Lynch Trustees, the trustees of the David Lynch Fund, which was set up some decades ago, and they have made some money available for these projects. So there's been some matching. Trustees funds, CPA funds together to help make some projects happen. And what we decided some months ago, and we made this presentation to the CPC, is that the current state of our facilities at Lynch Park, at Dane Street Beach, down at the waterfront, at Obeah Park, just really has been substandard and needs to be upgraded. The bathrooms, the showers, things like that. And so we've been able to put a program together where we are aggressively trying to ensure that before next active outdoor season, before summer, and hopefully before we get too far into the spring, we'll have a new bathroom and shower building at Lynch. We'll have new bathrooms at the Dane Street Bathhouse, new bathrooms at Obeah Park, and a fully completed, renovated, what they call the Brown Building down in the waterfront to service the marinas and the public down there. So there's a lot that we're trying to get accomplished, and the CPC was very supportive, as has been the trustees, in all that pertains to the parks. So Bruce can talk in a little more detail about the timetable. You know, at Lynch Park, we've already put in a new playground, a new play structure to replace the one that was, gosh, a quarter of a century old, 20 years plus. And a new splash pad is coming in to help cool off kids and families during the summer. He can speak to those, but also to the new bathhouse, the bathroom house with showers and bubblers that will go in. And then, you know, whatever else you want to touch on, Bruce.
Sure. Well, as the mayor said, the playground was put in last week, and it's about 95% complete. We have to bring in the safety surfacing and finish off a couple of small components, but it will be ready to be used probably by, or certainly by Thanksgiving. The splash pad, we're going to start the prep work for that next week. That'll be delivered and installed towards the end of the month, early December. In addition to what the mayor mentioned for funding from the Lynch trustees and the CPC, we also have a couple of state grants that one we've already been awarded for the playground and splash pad, $200,000, and we're hoping to get a $400,000 grant for the purchase of Camp Paradise, which I think we're going to talk about more in a little bit. But so in addition to the playground and splash pad, the bathrooms, we already have several designs from several different vendors. We're putting that out to bid soon and hope to have a vendor selected by the end of the month. It'll take a few months to prep the building, get it constructed, then they'll be delivered hopefully by the end of March, early April, put onto the pad and ready to go. So by mid-April, we should have functioning bathrooms at Lynch.
So the existing bathroom building will be torn down. This will be entirely new construction.
Which is right butts up against the shell.
And the new building will go in its footprint, essentially.
Okay. Now tell us a little bit. There's been a lot of work, a lot of improvements at the Carriage House. What's in store? What's in future for the Carriage House? How's that happening?
The Carriage House has a lot of needs, and I think it's very fortunate for us as a community that the Community Preservation Act has, that the city adopted it a year ago, because I think in the longer term we'll probably need to look to those funds again and again for the Carriage House, is my sense. The CPC recommended and the council approved a small planning grant for a Carriage House to better determine what its needs are and how to prioritize the work there. What we are doing this winter is we're purchasing and installing some windows into the building. The money was largely donated. And then there was a city match to that, and the money's been sitting. I think the former administration had tried to get it done last year and wasn't able to get it to fruition. So we're committed now to getting the new windows put in at the Carriage House between now and spring. And then, the building needs a lot. It will need a new roof. It will need new siding, particularly if you look at it from the water or from over by Independence Park. It doesn't look its best. We need to get to that, but it is an incredible resource. It really is, and one that we, I think that people typically agree needs to be preserved and made whole and made better for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, something that's just recently happened, of course, is that the city has installed a citywide fiber network. And one of the drops is at Lynch Park. and that will terminate in your office, I believe, in your building, and I think right now Mike Collins is working to get a drop over to the band shell for BevCam, so that in the future we will be able to tape events and performances at the band shell and broadcast them live during homecoming. So we're very thankful for that, and we're working with the city to make sure that happens. Very good. Now, what about some of the other parks around the city? Do you want to talk a little bit about them and what their needs are and what people might expect?
Sure. I'll touch on Dane and the waterfront. You can touch on Ober if that makes sense.
Sure.
The Dane Street Bathhouse, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing building, and we're not entirely sure what its future is. It may be that we're eventually able to replace it with a better building, but in the meantime, the bath and shower facilities are woefully inadequate, and so we're committed to improving the bathrooms before next summer down at Dane Street, and that's a job that we'll be doing internally, our public services department. So it'll be new fixtures and materials inside that, if we do eventually replace the building, we'll be able to take those fixtures and assets out and then reinstall them. So it's a good investment for next summer to make sure that people have a more pleasant experience, and that the bathrooms are really, fully and completely accessible to people. Down at the waterfront, we've been working on what we call the Brown Building for some time, and that should be finished up through the winter months. And among other things, that will ensure that we have adequate bathroom facilities down there, and shower facilities for the people who rent slips at both our commercial and recreational marinas. So that's an important piece as well. Bruce?
Sure. Aubert Park is a park that we've looked at for a number of years as trying to make it as good as possible. It has a baseball field, basketball court, tennis court, fairly good parking down there, waterfront, beach, and so forth. The bathrooms, unfortunately, were burned by arson a few years ago, but we've been able to rebuild that. We saved the stone structure and rebuild the house, and now the Department of Public Services is in the process of putting in new bathrooms. But ultimately, that building could be have a small kitchenette area, and then we're also talking about a pavilion there that the CPC has approved funding for as well, that would allow people to have picnics, family picnics, and other group outings there.
Wonderful.
And it's just a great park, and a lot of people don't even know where it is or much about it, but it's a beautiful spot right on the Danvers River, right near the Kernwood Bridge.
Right. Now let me ask you, there's been off and on talk about the future of Herd Stadium. Tell us a little bit about Herd, and what can we expect in the next couple of years at that site?
Herd Stadium it's a very romantic place for all of us. Having grown up going to games there and playing games there and whatnot. We don't really have in the near term a plan for Herd Stadium. I will say that I believe that any community our size needs a couple of all-purpose turf fields, and we have one here at the high school.
At the high school, yeah.
I think ideally we were able to eventually develop a second one here at the high school. Does that mean that in the future the high school football team will play its home games here on campus? I'm not sure. That's been talked about. But Herd certainly is a great facility, and it's just we're not there on that question, because there are so many things that the city needs to do that we need to put in the right order, because we don't have the money to do them all at once.
Yeah.
And whether or not a new turf field is in the very near offing, and what that would mean to the future use at Herd, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. And again, I think that my comment before about Lynch Park, the new city iNet is also dropping, the fiber net is having a drop at Herd, and again, Mike Collins is working with us to get a drop up in the press box. So again, starting probably next year, we'll be able to broadcast home games live and stream them on BevCam's website come next September.
Well, Herd certainly has some limitations. The press box you mentioned recently had some wind damage.
Yes, yeah.
But Herd Stadium is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. I played there and loved the field. It's a great place to watch a game, but it does have limitations with the stands and some of the facilities. So, we have been looking long and hard at what to do going forward with that.
Yeah. Good. Now, Mike, people have been reading about recent events that the city has conducted, specifically the ribbon cutting at the Greens Hill, the McKay Time Capsule. Tell us a little bit about those events. How did those work out?
Oh, they're fantastic events. Now, Green Hill is the open space adjacent to the Ayerswile Side School,
right.
Going down to the waterfront on the Bass River. It's a great resource. The city was able to purchase it. It's about 15, 16 years ago now. When I was state representative, I got some grant money to help purchase it, and it's been a great resource. But unfortunately, it's really been kind of left kind of in its natural state, which is it's become overgrown. It's and it's also become targeted for some illegal activity and some kind of appropriation by that space by individuals for encampments and such. So we spent time this summer and fall really opening that property back up, reestablishing the existing trails, adding some new trails, improving sight lines so people feel safe as they're out there enjoying it. This ribbon cutting we had a couple weekends ago was really just about reintroducing the property to the neighborhood, to the elementary school community. And we had about 175 people there on a Saturday afternoon 3 weeks ago. Newly improved trails. Everybody took a walk around the property, and we looked at improvements. We also are going to go before the Conservation Commission to request permission to build essentially a staircase down to the riverbank. It's a steep embankment. It's washed out, and the school tries to go down there from time to time with classes to do science work. So we're looking to build, a little staircase, maybe some railroad tie type of construction, and in addition to that, to put some benches up at the top of the hill, so there'll be some scenic views overlooking the river. So hopefully those improvements we'll be able to do by sometime, early next year. The network of trails is wonderful. We are working through Land Court to finalize city control of an abandoned parcel that fronts on Green Street that would allow us to connect that whole trail network from Bridge Street by the Hall Whitaker Bridge all the way over to Green Street, which then allows us to connect it around kind of that tip of that upper end of the Bass River that you see as tidal, and over behind Stop and Shop back out towards the public landing by the Bolomat. So we're hopeful to have a whole loop to walk before too long.
Now, is that I was reading in the paper that's about a 2.5 mile loop. Is that possible there? Is it that?
Don't know. I mean, if you eyeball it, I suppose it could be.
Yeah.
Particularly if you do a little moving around in circles up behind the elementary school, which some of those trails you can do some nice loops there. And when we had this event, several families said they'd already been out there walking their dogs, jogging. We had families saying they're going to come back on their bikes so they can bike around through there with their kids. So very exciting. We recognize that when you take public space like that's a bit wooded, you need daily activity on that by the public to keep it accessible and safe. And our police have been making daily sweeps through the area as well to ensure that.
Now let me ask you something. Sully Mulligan Park. What's the status of Sully Mulligan Park?
Sally Milligan, go ahead.
It's been available. It's accessible. There's limited parking in the area, but people do park and walk the trails, bike the trails.
I'm one of them.
Several years ago that we purchased the Sampson property and some other properties in that area to allow even more extensive hiking trails and so forth. So it's utilized a lot. It's utilized, again, a lot of people walk their dogs up there. People hike and bike. So.
And then part of Sally Milligan is where that youth soccer field is. I guess that's the under-8s they typically play there. It's a great resource, really is. When we were kids, there were a lot of Boy Scout camporees, jamborees, and the like up there, but not anymore. But it's a great resource.
Yeah. Now let's talk about open space in general. What can you tell us what the city's approach is and what the city's vision is to the whole issue of open space?
As kind of a foundation, one of our challenges and one of our goals is to ensure that Beverly maintains enough open space, permanently protected, that people can always have the opportunity to enjoy a walk in the woods, or a jog or a bike ride or whatever, that resource is always available. To that end, we have close to 100 acres of land city-owned between the North Beverly Elementary School in behind there over the banks of Norwood Pond and out to the back of some of the Dodge Street neighborhoods.
Really?
And so that's a great resource. It currently is designated as open space, but not really permanently protected. In other words, in the future, a mayor and a city council could look at that space and may deem it to be too valuable for economic development to keep as open space. I think that would be a mistake. I think as we look at the phase 2 of the Brimble Avenue project and a lot of commercially zoned parcels of land along Dunham Road and up by the old landfill, there's enough already to look at for development. That roughly 100 acres that's designated open space needs to permanently be open space. So we've been working with Essex County Greenbelt to draft a conservation restriction. The city would grant a permanent conservation restriction to Greenbelt. So there would never be, again, the opportunity for someone to look at that and say, let's clear cut that and develop it. Never.
Right, yeah.
So that's that conservation restriction proposal is something that I've shared with the city council. We'll be bringing it forward to them in a formal way when it's ready. There are a lot of work that goes into drafting something like that properly, but that'll come forward soon. Bruce can talk with you a little bit about an effort we're undergoing right now to try to protect a 12-acre site over at Girl Scout Pond.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Sure. Camp Paradise is available. The Girl Scouts, are downsizing a little bit, so we've negotiated a purchase price of $950,000. It's a 12-acre site. There is a pond on the site. There's some wetlands. There's a beautiful building, which is about 20 years old, but in great shape. It has a full kitchen, full handicap-accessible bathrooms, large meeting space, plus some outdoor space as well. So again, we're really excited about the opportunity to purchase that. Just for the general public to use, again, for hiking and biking, and then be able to go up there. We can certainly make it available for families and churches and corporations that want to have outings up there. Plus, we hope to use it for the building and the site for a lot of programming as well. We leased the property this past summer just to get a feel for it, and we took our camps up there several times throughout the summer. We tried to run some programs there. We did an archery program. We had some sustainability training. And that's the type of thing that we hope to continue doing going forward. Science camps, we can run 1-week camps, 2-week camps for kids for science, for sustainability. We've been working with Change is Simple, the Belmontes, and that's been a great program. Art programs, things like that, fitness programs up there. So there's a lot of potential in it, and it would just be a great resource for the city, and as the mayor said, it protects it from development because there are already people eyeballing it for development.
Now, the structures that are on that Camp Paradise site, are they sound structures? Do they need any tender love and care? Or
as I said, the building's about 20 years old, but it's in great shape. If you went inside, you would think it's even newer than that. It's got beautiful hardwood floors in the meeting room. As I said, full industrial, what I call industrial type kitchen. It's all stainless steel appliances, 2 large bathrooms with 2 stalls, and they're all fully handicap accessible. So again, everything's in great shape in there, and so the outside hasn't been maintained much by the Girl Scouts because they haven't used it that much.
Yeah.
But a coat of stain and some tender loving care on some of the shrubs around the outside, and it'll look beautiful again.
Oh, wonderful. Now, Mike, you did mention some economic initiatives. Maybe can you give us kind of a quick rundown on some of the economic development initiatives that the city is undertaking right now?
Sure. Well, we've got the Rantoul Street 1A project, which is an infrastructure project. It's rebuilding the road from the Beverly-Salem Bridge down Rantoul to Gloucester Crossing, and then turning up Cabot all the way to Dairy Queen and the railroad crossing. It's an infrastructure project, but when completed, it will have really helped to jumpstart the Rantoul Street economic development. Now, there's already a lot going on Rantoul down around the Depot Square area, and from there down to the waterfront. So that's all positive. We are, with our waterfront, as you know, we applied to the state several months ago to try to get a de-designation of the designated port area. We're looking for complete relief from that. If we get something less than, we'll work with it, but we're hoping for complete relief. In conjunction with that, or anticipation of it, we've started a rezoning process for our waterfront. And if the DPA de-designation comes to fruition, we'll be able to rezone our waterfront and really push forward with what we believe will be a great plan for the city, which calls for mixed-use redevelopment of the waterfront, much greater public access to the waterfront, the ability for people to go walk along, enjoy the boats, enjoy the water, get an ice cream, get a box of fried clams, sit out and have a meal, do some shopping, all that goes with that,
Sure.
right along our waterfront. Further up Cabot Street, we're very excited that a local group has purchased the Cabot Cinema. They have organized as a nonprofit and have a plan for being open for business up to, I think they were talking about 360 nights a year, looking for several nights a month of live performances and to be a movie house on the nights when they don't have live shows. And if you take that and you add it to what's going on with the Larkham and with the music theater, it's got the potential to really just, in a transformative way, really bring the whole downtown up, which I think will help jumpstart the retail side of our downtown as well.
Yeah.
The restaurant scene will become more vibrant, and I think the retail can come with it as well. So there's a lot of excitement around that.
Yeah, great. Now, we just have a couple minutes left, so I'm going to ask both of you maybe to chime in and give us any kind of overall, any final thoughts you want to share with our viewers on parks and recreation and what it means to you, what it means to the city. Maybe, Bruce, I'll start with you and let the mayor finish up.
Sure. I think, I've always said Beverly has tremendous resources. We have 9 beaches. We have 25 or so playgrounds or play areas for the kids. We have 31 fields. And I do have to put in a plug for the Department of Public Services because they do a tremendous job taking care of our facilities. But we have great resources, and we try to keep those up to snuff as much as we can. And we're always working hard to make it available for the general public.
Yep.
I would echo all that, and I'd just add that the state just recently passed a complete streets statute, and we're looking into trying to get in on that early so that we can try to ensure better pedestrian and bicycle use of our roads going forward. And one of the things that we'll be looking to do is connect our downtown by bike path and walking to Lynch Park throughout that part of town, right along the water and down to Dane Street Beach better. So, but throughout the community. So these are the kind of things that make a community more livable.
Sure.
And that's the important piece of all of this.
Yeah, wonderful. Well said, both of you. And I'd like to thank you for being on the show, Mike and Bruce. Thank you very much. And I'd like to tell our viewers that you've been watching City Scene with Mayor Mike Cahill. I'm your host, Walt Kosmowski. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.